Good morning, wonderful humans. It is Scott Miller here from BOP, and welcome to our Future Foods program. Now, I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your time for lockdown. Now, I know we've had over 130 students book into this program, which is super exciting. So I know right now we're beaming into classrooms and homes across Southeast Queensland. And for all of you students out there, for those that have gone on holidays early, I hope you're enjoying the extra school holidays this term. And for those that are still doing learning at home, only 1 or 2 more days and then we're on holidays. So as mentioned, my name's Scott. I'm going to be your lead facilitator today for the Future Foods program. And now I hope you're really excited. The Future Foods program is one of my absolute favorites. We have the pleasure of BOP of delivering this program to schools all around the world, here in Australia, but also over in Singapore and Malaysia, and also in America and China as well. And it's a hit. It's looking at our future foods and how they're going to change now and over the next 50 years. Because believe it or not, there's going to be a lot of changes. And that's what we're going to be exploring today. Now, we're on Facebook and YouTube live right now, but this session will be recorded. So if you drop out for whatever reason, make sure to go back and find the recordings after the class. And you can watch this back as many times as you like. And also too, as far as what you're going to need, we've sent through a little worksheet. And if you've got that, that's fantastic. Make sure you've got that in front of you. But if not, just any way you can take notes, whether it's some pen and paper, whether it's on your device, that's totally fine as well. And you're welcome to pop any questions, any ideas that you've got in the comments section as well. We're going to be using those for some of those activities. But if you do have any questions, pop them in the comment section. Our team will be more than happy to help you out. And if you have any ideas, you're welcome to put them there as well. We'd love to see what ideas you're coming up with. Now, let's get started. So who are we? BOP Industries is a Brisbane-based education company on a mission to inspire the next generation of digital creators. We work with primary and high school students, teaching them about entrepreneurship, innovation, and STEM. And we get to do everything from showing kids how they can start their own businesses to design the future of foods, build future cities, work with technologies, and more. So we get to do a lot of really exciting stuff here at BOP. And as I mentioned, Future Foods is one of our absolute favorite programs. And as far as what we do, the specifics, we run a whole range of after-school programs and school holiday programs for students across Queensland. We also do community days and events, and we also have our Young Entrepreneurs Hub to help students build and launch their own businesses. So if any of those do sound like they're of interest, or if you want even more of these types of programs, make sure to head to bopindustries.com. We'd love to see you guys there. So let's dive in. As far as what we're actually doing today. Now, future foods is a big topic. There's a lot going on in the future of our foods, but this is what we're going to be doing today. Now, by the end of this session, we're going to be learning about the way our foods are changing into the future and looking at how we're going to feed our growing and changing population, and consider how technology is going to influence the foods that we eat in the future. So by the end of this session, we're going to be investigating technologies that revolutionize the way we eat. We're engaging with the future of agriculture, and we're designing and pitching a future restaurant. So it's a lot of fun. This is your opportunity to think big and think different, have some crazy ideas, and then figure out how to make them work. And I'll be here to show you how to do just that. So let's get started. As far as why we look at the future of foods, you may be wondering, why is the way our foods are going to be changed? Why are our foods changing, and how are they going to change? Well, it's because our population is changing quite rapidly. Let me just make this slide a little bit bigger for you guys so you can see some of the statistics. So here are some of the statistics we need to know. So over the past 40 years, we've increased our egg consumption 700%. That means we're eating 7 times more eggs now than we were 40 years ago. So chickens need to lay a lot more eggs. As well as that, we're also eating 300% more protein than we were 40 years ago, which means 3 times as much meat, which is crazy to think. Think about how much meat you guys would eat in a typical week. Do you have it just a couple of times a week? Do you have it meat at least once a day? Think about that, and think about how it might be different to what people were eating 40 years ago. Now, as well as that, we're having 180,000 new mouths to feed every single day. Now, that's a big growing population. And to keep up with all the demand, we're going to need to increase our crop production by 70%, which means we're going to need to produce nearly double what we're producing now to feed our growing population. Now, today in 2021, 1 in 9 people are undernourished, which means 1 in every 9 people are not getting enough food around our world, which is crazy to think. And then we've also got some other statistics, like it takes 7 kilograms of crops to feed 1 kilogram of beef. So if you're growing a cow and trying to fatten it up, you're going to need to feed it 7 kilograms worth of crops to get it to grow 1 kilogram worth of edible beef. And as well as that, only 12% of the land that we live on planet Earth is suitable for growing crops on this planet, which is crazy to think. So there are a lot of statistics here and a lot to think about, but essentially the theme is that we've got a growing population. Our population is growing, we're getting more people on this earth, but we're still not growing enough food today to feed all of them. So how are we going to be able to grow more food into the future to keep up with this growing demand? And as well as that, we're also seeing our habits change as well. We're eating a lot more eggs and a lot more protein, so a lot of animal produce. So we've got to think about how that's going to change as well. And that's what we're going to dive into for our first challenge today. Now, food in 2021. So currently production could feed 10 billion people. In 2021 today, we produce enough food every year to feed 10 billion people. Now, can anyone pop in the comment section what the population of planet Earth is today? I'll give you guys a second to pop that in the comment section. So thinking if we can feed 10 billion people in 2021, and we have enough food for that, what is the population of planet Earth? I can see a couple of answers coming through. So the population of planet Earth is 7 billion people. We have 7 billion people on our planet, and we grow enough food to feed 10 billion. But if you'll remember that previous statistic, 1 in 9 people are undernourished. That means they're not getting enough food. So we've got to think about where is all this food going? Where are we wasting it? And why is not everybody getting enough food? So this is one of the things we've got to consider. Now, the world in 2050 is going to be changing quite quickly. So we've got about 7 to 8 billion people on our planet today. We make enough food to feed 9 billion. But over the next 30 years, between 2021 and 2050, our world is going to change quite quickly. We are going to see 6.3 billion people in our cities. That's 3 times more people living in our cities today. So think about it. If you guys live in a city, think about how busy Brisbane City is, for example. Can you imagine Brisbane City being 3 times busier in 30 years? It's crazy. We're going to see at least 2 billion more mouths to feed on our planet. So we're going to have a population of 9 billion people by 2050, which is crazy to think another 2 billion people on our planet. And we're also going to need to increase our crop production by 70% to keep up. That means we need more farmers producing more food in a more sustainable way to keep up with this population. So this is what we're going to be looking at today, our world in the year 2050 and how we need to change our food production and our food technology to be able to keep up with that. So we're going to be looking at technology, we're going to be looking at our people and looking at our cities as well. So it should be a really fun session. Now, what I want to do to start with is you to think about what can we do. So after hearing these statistics around food waste and the need for increased food production, we want you to tell us what you think we can do to help these issues. Now, you can either brainstorm with some pen and paper or by posting in the comment section of this video on Facebook or on YouTube. And we want you to tell us what you think we could do to start solving these problems. So the 4 problems I want you to think about. Firstly, how can we limit our food waste? Think about how much food you've thrown out in the last week. Did you not finish your dinner? Or did you not get a chance to eat lunch? Or did you not get a chance to finish your breakfast and did you have to throw some in the bin? What can we do to limit our food waste? How can we eat more sustainable food? If it takes 7 kilograms of crops to produce 1 kilogram of beef, how can we be more sustainable in our food choices? Think about how can we keep food fresh for longer? And how can we limit the distance our food travels? Now, these are 4 really big questions, but I'm going to give you 5 minutes to come up with some solutions. Like I said, you're more than welcome to work on some pen and paper, or you can pop your answers in the comment section and we'll feature some of these on the screen while you're working. If you have any questions, again, just pop them in the comment section. Our team will be more than happy to help out. But answering those 4 questions around what we can do to start solving these problems, I want to hear what you think. Pop them in the comment section, write them on some pen and paper. I'll give you 5 minutes and play some music in the background. Your time starts now. All right, guys. So coming back, you guys had some amazing ideas. I loved seeing what you came up with, looking at everything from composting to eating meat-free meats. There are some really amazing vegan alternatives out there. Growing meats and growing food in our own homes and in our backyards, and only buying enough food to sustain ourselves for the week and doing a lot of meal planning. There's some really great ideas of what we're already doing today. And what we're going to do next is have a look at some of the amazing technologies that are out there that are coming over the next few years that'll be available to us. So let me make my screen a little bit bigger and we'll head to the next slide. So 2050, the menu of the future. That's going to be our first challenge for today, is designing a menu for the year 2050. Now, on this menu, we're going to be looking at all the different things that we might be eating by 2050. Everything from jellyfish to fungi to seaweed and a whole range of insects and everything else that's out there. Now, these photos may seem kind of creepy and a little bit crazy, but these are some of the real alternatives that are going to be available to us over the next 30 years. And they might be better for you and tastier than you think. So our first challenge today, we're going to be creating a menu for the year 2050, looking at a restaurant menu. So we want you to create this menu for the year 2050, and we want you to think about these three things. We want one item on your menu that's a twist of your favorite meal. So think about what your favorite food is to eat. I know for me, I love fish and chips. That's my favorite meal. So what's a twist on your favorite meal? Think about an item that's a twist on your favorite beverage or drink. So for me, I love milkshakes. So how could I make milkshakes a little bit different? And how can I use technology to produce one item as well? Now, you may be sitting there wondering, like, how do I put a twist on my favorite meal? I mean, like, fish and chips is fish and chips, right? Well, that's what we're going to have a look at moving in this next section. So this is an overview of the challenge. Now, what we're going to do is firstly have a look at a few different examples. So, for example, Teslas and burgers, they actually have a lot in common. Now, it's been calculated that to produce a single cheeseburger, just the meat patty for that cheeseburger, over 3 kilograms of CO2 is emitted. That's carbon dioxide. Now, they're the gases that go into the environment that are really bad for our environment. Now, that same energy, you could drive a Tesla car, a Model S, for up to 50 kilometers. It's pretty crazy to think that, yeah, for one beef patty on a cheeseburger, you can drive a car up to 50 kilometers. Now, plant-based meats are a real alternative to this. Now, because it takes so much CO2 to produce a single beef patty, there have been a lot of plant-based meats coming out, which I've seen a few people have been mentioning in the comments section, the whole idea of meat-free meat. Now, meat is one of the most inefficient ways to feed humanity, but it tastes really, really good. Now, the meat industry emits more greenhouse gases than all ships, buses, trains, planes, and cars combined. So the greenhouse gases are the really bad gases that go up and into our atmosphere and can damage our ozone layer. And it's really bad for things like climate change and global warming. So whilst it's unlikely that people will stop eating meat, there are some really amazing alternatives out there that are made of plants. I know for me, I really love a beetroot-based beef patty. Now, it's a patty that you can make a burger with that looks like a regular burger patty, but it's made of beetroot and it tastes just the same. It's really cool. You guys might have seen a few of these out in the supermarkets. Make sure to pop in the comments section if you've seen any of these meat-free patties in the supermarket shelves. Another option is lab-grown meat. So the recent researchers have been doing some work and have found ways to grow meat in a lab. So it looks identical to a regular meat at a cellular level. So it's just made of regular plant cells, but it's grown without killing any animals. So essentially the way it works is they take a tissue sample from a living animal, a small piece of skin or flesh. Now that's put into a petri dish and they add nutrients to encourage the stem cells to multiply so it grows bigger. Then proteins are added to get the cells to differentiate into muscle and fat cells. And then from there, a sample of raw meat is ready to be cooked and eaten. So you can be eating a steak that looks, smells, and tastes like a regular steak does without actually having to harm any animals. You can take just a skin graft from them and grow it in a lab, in a petri dish. I was really lucky to try some of this over in China at the end of 2019, just before the lockdown, and it tastes and smells exactly like regular meat does, which is crazy to think. So when you think about it, pop in your comment section. Would you guys eat lab-grown meats? It's a bit of a crazy concept. The next one is insects. So did you know that there are over 1,900 different edible insects available to us, and that 2 billion people out of the 7 billion people around the world already eat insects? Now, insects actually provide more protein per gram than meat does, and they're far less resource intensive. So I want you to think about, would you eat insects, or have you eaten insects before? Because chances are you already have. So the FDA, which is our food safety regulator, already allows a certain number of insect fragments in every product that's on our shelves. So for anyone that's eaten 100 grams of frozen berries, there's allowed to be up to 2 insects in that 100 grams of frozen berries. If you're having any ground cinnamon, a typical jar has 800 fragments. Now, for anyone that wants to go and that knows their mum and dad drink a lot of coffee, the regular coffee drinker drinks 140,000 fragments of insects every year. So after this, you can go and tell them when they're having their coffee tomorrow morning, hey, mum or dad, like, did you know that you're probably drinking 140,000 fragments of insects every single year? And for those of us that love chocolate, I know for me, I love chocolate so much. I was having some just last night. Chocolate lovers eat on average about 6,000 fragments of insects per year. Now, because of all of this, it's predicted that the average Australian eats around 1/4 kilogram of insects every year, which is crazy to think about. So for those of you that thought that eating insects was a bit gross or a bit weird, chances are you probably already are. Insects are being packaged up into ways that we don't even know that we're eating insects. Now, another option is jellyfish. So I don't know, have any of you guys eaten jellyfish before? So similar to insects, jellyfish are now being recognized as a very healthy substitute for our current meal diets. Jellyfish, they produce really rapidly and they cause havoc around the world. They sting people, they can kill up to 300,000 farmed salmon in a single night, and they can even get into power plants and clog them up. It's crazy. So jellyfish, essentially, they reproduce really quickly and they can be a bit of a pest. Now, jellyfish, though, they're also known for having a really delicate, slightly salty taste. They're edible. So there are restaurants and cultures around the world that serve jellyfish as normal. You can cook it up and you can serve it on a plate to eat like you would eat anything else. So think about, would you guys eat jellyfish if it was on a menu? Or I wonder what you think jellyfish would go with. Like, would you eat it with like crackers, or would you eat it in sushi, or would you cook it up and serve it on a plate at a fancy restaurant? I want you guys to think about what you'd eat jellyfish with. Now, fungi. So let me know in the comments who here loves mushrooms and who here hates mushrooms. I know for me, I'm not a mushroom eater. I can't do it. They're like my least favorite food. But fungi are actually really popular food choices these days. So fungi currently make up 1/4 of the world's biomass. So there's a lot of fungi around the world. And fungi is the base of pizzas, bread, beer, and humans as well. We're made up of fungi as well. So we're now discovering that mushrooms and mycelium can be used as building materials, footwear, clothing, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and even new foods. So mushrooms and these fungi can be used in a whole range of different ways to do a whole bunch of different things. So they're a real superfood of the future. So think about, for those mushroom lovers, you might be eating a lot more mushrooms in the future. And you might even be seeing mushrooms being used in building material and even the clothes you wear and the shoes you use. Another option is algae. Now, again, tell me in the comments who here loves sushi. I know for me, I love sushi. It's one of my favorite meals. I'll always have it at lunchtime. And chances are that if you've eaten sushi, you've probably eaten algae before. Now, algae's been used in human diets for a really long time because it's really good for us. It's extremely healthy. And the reason that algae is so exciting as a future food is that it can be grown in the sea. Now, I saw some comments before saying that we should eat more seafood because the majority of the world's mass is sea. The majority of our land is taken up by water. So it means by eating algae and eating seafood, we can stop clearing rainforest for agricultural land. Algae can be grown year round, and there's lots and lots of it around our world. So think about those that really do like sushi. You might be eating a lot more sushi in the future with a lot of algae. Now, another option, if we go into the restaurant side of things, is 3D printed food. So imagine ordering a favorite takeaway food. I know for me last night, I ordered some Thai food for dinner. But instead of getting it delivered, you get it printed. You can get it sent to a 3D printer in your home that can print the food out for you. Instead of having to argue about who's cooking dinner or who's washing up, you could just go onto your device on your phone or iPad and go, yep, I feel like a cheeseburger for dinner tonight. Tap it and your 3D printer in your kitchen can print it for you. Well, that's still a couple of years away, but 3D printed food technology is already here and allows us to create a whole range of different foods. I know QUT, the Queensland University of Technology, have got 3D printers that can 3D print chocolate, which is really awesome. So you can print it out in any shape you want, like an Eiffel Tower or a dinosaur. You can pick it up off the 3D printing bed, pop it in your mouth and start eating it. In researchers, though, in Asia and also over in Europe, are looking at how they can 3D print different meats as well. So some researchers over in Germany are currently doing work where they're 3D printing an actual steak, but not using any meat. They have plant-based substitutes for the meat, for the muscle, and the blood, and they print it all together, squish it down, and it tastes just like a regular steak does. So for those of you that really hate cooking, the good news is that in the next 20 years, we could be 3D printing our own food. Now, I know I was interviewing Dr. Carr last week at the World Science Festival, and he was even talking about 3D printing our own devices as well. Say in 20 years, if you want to buy the new iPhone, instead of going to the Apple Store and buying it, you can buy it, you can download the code for it, and then 3D print it on your own 3D printer as well. It's pretty crazy seeing what can be done with 3D printing. As well as that, we also have things like edible water bottles. So these already exist today. Now, they're seaweed-based capsules that are 100% edible, and they're created from a brown algae that's also 100% biodegradable. So instead of having a plastic water bottle, you get this little orb like you can see on the screen there, and you can pop it in your mouth and eat it. It's full of water, so it bursts in your mouth and you can drink the water, and then you can eat the algae that it's wrapped in as well. Or if you don't want to eat the algae, you can drink the water out of it and then throw the algae away in the garden because it's 100% biodegradable. Now, these have been designed to remove the plastic from water bottles, and they can be flavored or colored as well for different drinks. So you might have, if you want a Coke flavored water bottle, you can bite into it and it might be Coca-Cola inside, or you could have raspberry flavor or lemon flavor, whatever you want. Now, these are currently being tested for sporting events, such as marathons, to limit plastic waste. If you think a lot about those long runs, people are running along, they grab a plastic bottle of water, drink it, and then throw it to the side. But what they can do now is they can be running along, grab an edible water bottle, and pop it in their mouth and just keep running. So think about if you guys would eat edible water bottles, and if you would try it, and what sort of flavors you'd love inside. So back to our challenge, the menu of 2050. Those were a lot of pretty crazy ideas, everything from edible water bottles to 3D printed food, algae, mushrooms, jellyfish, and more. But these are all going to be the types of food we're eating over the next 30 years. Now, it's over to you guys to design the menu of 2050. So we want you to think about what a restaurant menu is going to look like in 30 years' time. So think big, think different. Have those big and crazy ideas and then figure out how to make them work, using some of the ideas we've just looked at for some inspiration. So what we want you to do is design we want to design an item for the following categories. We want you on this menu to design an entree, a main meal, a dessert, and a beverage or drink of some description. And like I said, we want you to think of one item that's a twist on your favorite meal, one item that's a twist on your favorite beverage, and one item that uses technology. So we're going to give you 5 minutes for this activity. Now, if you don't get time to do all of these, that's totally okay. Like I said, this whole session's being recorded, so you can come back and watch it later. And when it comes to coming up with these ideas, make sure to pop them in the comments section. Tell us what sort of foods you're going to be designing on your menu, and we'll make sure to share them on the screen for everyone to see. But you can also work on them on your own pen and paper. It's totally up to you how you want to record these ideas. So we're going to give you 5 minutes. I'm going to put some music on. Your time starts now. All right, team. So we're going to pull that activity up there, but it was amazing seeing the different ideas you came up with. It was amazing seeing the bug caramelized sauce, the jellyfish chips, and a whole bunch of other things out there. I think the creaming soda spider in the algae was another really cool idea that I loved as well. I would totally order that at a restaurant. So amazing job coming up with your menu for 2050. Now, like I said, if you don't have time to finish that activity, that's totally okay. This will be recorded so you can come back and watch it later whenever it suits you. But amazing job coming up with all of those great ideas, looking at how the menu is going to change for 2050. So now that we've looked at our menu for a restaurant in 2050, let's take a look at the actual restaurant design itself and what our restaurants might look like and how they might work. So if we move on over here, we'll have a look at 3D foods and awesome food industry innovations, because there's some really exciting stuff going on, and that's what we're going to be exploring now. So technology versus food. Let me just quickly make this a bit bigger for you guys. Now, technology is changing the way we eat. From edible water bottles to 3D printed burgers, what we're going to be doing is exploring the future innovations in the food industry and then using these ideas to design our future restaurants. The actual restaurants that are going to serve the menus that we've just designed. So let's first have a look at vertical farming. Now, vertical farming has taken the world by storm. There are vertical farms all around the world. And essentially what they are is they're totally enclosed farms that grow all sorts of fresh produce. Now, they can be from anything as small as a 40-foot shipping container all the way up to an entire warehouse. And these are being grown all around the world. In London, they've recently installed vertical farms in their old underground London tube systems, where they've got old railways that are underground that aren't used anymore. So they've turned those railway systems into vertical farms. In the United States, they're turning big shipping containers that go on our cargo ships into vertical farms as well. And in Japan, they're creating entire warehouses in buildings that are using vertical farm technology as well. So this example is using shipping containers. Now, an average head of lettuce in the USA travels 1,800 miles to get to the customer from the farm, which is crazy to think just how far our food is traveling. And here in Australia, it's not much different. When you go out to a restaurant, you could be eating a meal that's made of foods from across the country. Things might have been flown in from Tasmania, brought across from Western Australia, down from Cairns, all to just be on your plate here in Brisbane. So this was the challenge that vertical farms address, is making sure that we can grow our farms in our local community, grow our food in our local community. So in vertical farms, a 40-foot shipping container, which is pretty small, can grow 5 acres of productive farmland. It's crazy. And it uses 95% less water than a regular farm. Now, it's all enclosed and super controlled. So they use specialized LED lights to grow the plants because you don't actually need sun for plants to photosynthesize. They have special sensors that will monitor how all the plants are growing. And they also have special irrigation to make sure the plants get just enough water. Now, they use regular seeds that you'd put in the dirt, but they grow them using a reusable cloth that's made of plastic. So it's made of this stripped down plastic that's been woven into a cloth. The seeds go into it, and as they grow, once they finish growing, you just take the cloth and you can put a new set of seeds in. So it's super sustainable. And it's also really fast. Now, crops take half the time to grow in a vertical farm as they do on a regular farm. And there's no stresses of traditional farming. You don't have to worry about whether the sun's shining or what the weather's doing or pests and bugs and all sorts of things like that. You can grow these crops year round without interruption in a vertical farm. So it's pretty crazy to see just how successful they are. And thinking about as well how we could have vertical farms in our schools, growing food for our tuck shop, how we could have vertical farms in our homes, in our backyards, growing food for our dinner table, and in our communities as well, growing food for our restaurants. So when you guys think about what a vertical farm might look like in a restaurant that you might design for the year 2050, will it be on the walls on the outside? Will it be on the roof, in the basement, or even in the kitchen as well? So thinking about vertical farming. The next one, like I touched on, is 3D printed food. Now, I touched on this really briefly, but there are whole restaurants around the world that operate using 3D printed food. One that I'd highly recommend checking out is called Food Inc. Now, Food Inc. is a pop-up restaurant. They travel around the world doing these different pop-up activations, and all of their food is 3D printed. But the really cool thing is they also still have a full team of chefs. Now, for them, they don't worry about robots taking our jobs or technology getting rid of the humans. They get the chefs to do the creative stuff. The chefs are the one that program the 3D printers to design all sorts of different shapes. And then what they do is they add all sorts of fresh foods on top. So it creates really beautiful food on your plate that most humans can't create as chefs. Now, the way that the food is created is it's built up upon layers of 3D printing. So for anyone that's seen a 3D printer before, you'll notice it goes back and forth and slowly gets higher and higher as it builds. And it's the exact same with food. You can see in one of the examples here, a corn on the cob that's being printed. And it starts really small and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, currently, simple foods like chocolate are common, and meats are also being experimented with, like I touched on later. Now, what the really cool thing with it as well as 3D printing, you can also 3D print the food, but then cook it at the same time with lasers. So as you're printing it, you can have lasers going over the top that'll actually cook the meat if you're cooking meat, which is crazy to think of. Now, it's totally automated with software, and it works by turning a raw ingredient into a paste, so grinding it down and then feeding that through the printer, just like the regular plastic filament that you'd feed through. Now, it's great for food preservation. It's said to be better for the environment, and it creates really beautiful food as well. So think about that example that I told you guys before. If you were to order your favorite food on Uber Eats from your favorite restaurant, but instead of having it delivered, you could just 3D print it at your home. It's pretty crazy to think about. Now, as well as our actual restaurants themselves, we're seeing an increase in technology. So there are entire restaurants over in Japan that are run entirely by robots. There's not a single human that works at that restaurant. So the whole idea is you walk into the restaurant, you're greeted by a robot that will seat you at your table, like a pepper robot, for anyone that's seen any of our pepper robots. You can walk in, be greeted by a pepper robot that'll take you to your table. When you sit down at your table, there's going to be an iPad with a menu, and you can order what you want. Now, when you order, that order is going to go straight to the kitchen, where there's a set of robotic chefs that use robot arms to be able to cook all of the food. Now, this uses vision technology. So they record regular chefs cooking spaghetti bolognese, for example, and the robotic arm will copy every single hand movement that chef does to cook more and more food. Once that food's done, another robotic waiter will come, pick it up, and deliver it to your table. So an entire restaurant without a single human working. So I want you to think about that as well when it comes to our restaurants in 2050. What are the robots going to be doing, and what might that service look like for us? Now, as I mentioned, 3D printed food is also becoming really popular in restaurants, but also augmented reality. Now, a lot of restaurants are experimenting with augmented reality, virtual reality, and holograms. So if you're looking at the menu, what you can do is, instead of trying to imagine what a certain food might look like, you can pick up your phone or your device, scan the menu with it, and you can see the food pop up floating in augmented reality or virtual reality or via a hologram, to see exactly what it's going to look like before you order it. Some pretty amazing technology. Now, we've also got to think about our restaurant spaces. So think about your favorite restaurant and what the inside of that restaurant looks like. As well as changing in terms of their technology and food, the design of the space might also change as well. So how are we going to make restaurants potentially more COVID safe if we're protecting against different diseases? How can we incorporate more technology into our restaurants? And if we have things like 3D printers and vertical gardens, where are all of the tables going to be laid out? So this is your challenge for the afternoon, and we're going to give you about 10 minutes to come up with this idea, where you get to design your own restaurant for the year 2050. So think about all the food innovations we talked about with the future of food. Think about the challenges we talked about with some of the demand issues with food, and also to think about some of those technologies we just touched on being used in our restaurant, and design your own restaurant. And what we're going to be doing is giving you guys an opportunity to pitch these in the comments section as well. So we want you to think about the following. How will you lay out your restaurant? What's the actual floor plan going to look like? What innovations are you going to include? Why is your restaurant special? And what's it going to look like in the year 2050? What's going to be your unique selling point? What's the special thing about your restaurant that people are going to come to see? And what are people going to say about your restaurant as well? What are they going to really love about it? So what are the really remarkable elements? So I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes to sketch this out and figure out what your restaurant's going to look like. Now, you can put this on a piece of paper and draw it and label it, and then potentially take a photo and put it in the comment section. You can just type your ideas in the comment section and we can feature them on the screen, whatever works best for you. And like I said, if you don't get enough time, it's totally fine. This is all recorded. You can come and watch it back later. But I'm going to give you 10 minutes and I want to see what restaurants you design for the year 2050. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Make sure to pop your ideas in the comments section and I will see you guys in 10 minutes. All right, wonderful humans. We might hold that there. Now, again, I loved seeing the amazing ideas you came up with for your restaurant designs. Everything from buttons that can teleport you to the toilet, options for robots to take and compost all of the food that you don't eat, and even 3D printers on our tables. So when we place our order, it just starts 3D printing straight away. I really love this, and I'm very excited to go to some of your restaurants. So this is an example of how you can use some of the amazing technologies that are out there that are available to start designing restaurants of the future. And the really exciting thing about a lot of these technologies is that they already exist today. A lot of these technologies are already out there. So it's stuff that we can start seeing popping up in restaurants already, and technologies we can start even using around our homes already as well. So you guys have done a fantastic job. And like I said, if you still are coming up with ideas, make sure to pop them in this comment section or email them to us at hello@bopindustries.com. We'd love to see the ideas you guys come up with. And we have some little hologram prizes for some of the best ideas and designs that get emailed to us. Now, let's have a look at what's up next. So this is your Restaurant of the Year 2050. This was the final activity. But we hope you guys had a really great time with us today, looking at future foods. Now, we've done everything from looking at food waste and some of the challenges associated with the future of our foods. We've looked at designing a menu for the year 2050, and we've also designed our own restaurant. We'd love to see what ideas you guys have come up with. And make sure as well to like the post, whether you're watching it on Facebook or on YouTube, so you can keep up to date with other programs. Now, tomorrow, running the Future of Sport program. So for anyone that wants to learn about technologies we're using in sports, and for any sports people out there, we'd love to see you guys there. And like I said, we'd love to see you as well in our school holiday, after school programs, and community days, as well as if you do have a business idea you want to bring to life, like a restaurant of the future or a food of the future, make sure to check out our Young Entrepreneurs Hub, because we'd love to be able to help you guys there. So that is a wrap for our Future Foods program. We hope you guys have enjoyed it just as much as we've enjoyed working with you all. And we hope you all have a fabulous rest of your lockdown as well. I can't wait to see you guys all next time and see you tomorrow at our Future of Foods program. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to come up with some really exciting ideas. And like I said, for any of the ideas you guys have come up with today, make sure to email them to hello@bopindustries.com. We'll pop that in the comment section for your chance to win some really awesome prizes. Now, make sure to like, but we're going to wrap up for today. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Bye, guys.